was hoping for a little more remorse, regret, acknowledgement of some responsibility, and less preaching. And I'm not going to rehash all the facts from my order, which I found that the things you did and the things you didn't do make you guilty of this crime. I'm not going to rehash all that. Suffice it to say that I think your culpability is less than Mr. Chauvin, but well above Mr. King and Mr. Lane as an experienced senior officer who was in the best position to save George Floyd. Accordingly, it's my belief that a sentence at the top of the range would be condign punishment. So as to count 2, having been found guilty by the court of aiding and abetting manslaughter in the second degree, after a trial pursuant to Minnesota Rule of Criminal Procedure 26.01 Subdivision 3, judgment of the court is that you are convicted of that offense. Count 1 is dismissed pursuant to the negotiation. You are sentenced to 57 months in prison with credit for 340 days already served. This sentence will be concurrent with your federal sentences.
I apologize, Your Honor.
And will be served at a federal facility designated by the United States Bureau of Prisons. Upon release from your federal sentence, you will be transferred to the Minnesota Department of Corrections to serve the remainder of your state sentence unless alternative arrangements are made with the United States Bureau of Prisons. Your provided DNA sample is required by law, and you are prohibited from possessing firearms and ammunition for the remainder of your life. Pay a $50 fine, $75 surcharge, and $3 law library fee from prison wages. Any questions?
Oh, no. God bless you, sir.
All right. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, so this is Officer Tao, who has essentially been sentenced to a little bit under 5 years in prison. Now, Tao was one of 2 veteran officers. So it was Chauvin and Tao were actually training the other 2 officers to, on the ropes. One officer was there for like 2 weeks, and the other one officer, I forgot, he was there for like maybe a couple of months. So they were in their training phase, right? We're training other officers, and that's the way you do it in law enforcement. You go out in teams, and one guy trains the other guy. So Chauvin was his training officer, and Tao was the other. Tao was on the force for about 10 years. Now, the interesting part about Tao, like you see here in the headline, Tao didn't actually put hands on George Floyd during that time where he died, the famous 9.5 minutes that sparked the worldwide protest. The only thing Tao did was crowd control. So after the other officers took Floyd down, they were holding him down, and Chauvin is ordering the other 2 to stay on top of him. Tao was just holding back the crowd, like hold on, stop. And they essentially threw the book at him, right? He's got federal charges, he got state charges, he's just been charged. And Tao has always maintained his innocence. Now, Chauvin obviously went to trial, and he got 22 years. The other 2, they took deals, so one got 3 and one got like 3.5 years. And unfortunately, Tao was like, yo, I'm going to trial. He was like, I was just doing crowd control. I didn't even know what was going on behind me. I was just doing crowd control. But judge decided, you didn't show enough remorse. You didn't say you were sorry. He's like, I didn't even know what was going on behind me. I was literally trying to stop people who were trying to intervene, because that was like his role at that day. Now, I'm going to say it. No matter how you feel about Chauvin and the other people who are holding Floyd down, the knee on the neck, okay, whatever you feel about that is all right. I covered it on this trial, and I thought, it was hard. It was going to be almost impossible after that video was played in front of the jury for Chauvin to be found not guilty. It was going to be impossible. I'm just going to let you guys know. That video, you can take that video to essentially any jurisdiction in America, and Chauvin was going to be found guilty. It was just going to happen. But Tao, I thought, had a great shot at winning, because I'm like, hey, he essentially wasn't doing anything, but they got him for essentially aiding and abetting by holding people back from rendering aid to stopping the other guys from their assault and murder of Floyd. He was essentially convicted for aiding that murder, and that's why he's getting time in prison. So let's look at the story from NBC. Let's see what they're talking about.
Minneapolis police officer Tu Tao's attorney argued that he was not actively taking part in George Floyd's death, adding his actions that day were following his MPD training. Tao, seen here holding back the crowd while the other 3 officers restrained Floyd. In his 177-page decision, Judge Peter Cahill calls Tao's actions that day objectively unreasonable. In court documents, he points to the type of restraint that Floyd was held in by the officers, saying, Tao knew that this prone restraint was extremely dangerous because it can cause asphyxia and the inability to breathe. Floyd told officers repeatedly that he couldn't breathe.
Now, the issue with this is Floyd, and again, you'd have to watch the trial to know this. I forgot when it was, but previously, Floyd had a previous arrest that was caught on camera. And during that previous arrest, he was saying things like he couldn't breathe and things of that nature. So this was kind of like his common thing to say, like crying for his mom, and he couldn't breathe because he had a couple of other police contacts. So I understand in this situation it was serious, but it's like when you really take it into the context of listening to it at the trial, you're like, okay, well, this is something that he was saying. Now, in this time, it was serious, like he couldn't breathe. So, it does mean something, but I'm thinking if Tao was a veteran officer, you're listening to people say things like that all the time. Doesn't excuse them, but it's just hard for me to wrap my head around. Why would you give this officer who didn't touch the guy, who was just standing around and essentially doing crowd control, why would you give him so much time? It's hard to make sense of it. It's hard to say this is justice. You know what I mean? Maybe you take his job and say, hey, you can't work here anymore, but to put him in prison, it just seems a little bit much to me.
Judge Cahill added, he actively encouraged the other 3 officers and assisted their crime by holding back concerned bystanders, declining to render medical aid to Floyd, not instructing any of the other 3 officers to render medical aid to Floyd, and not permitting any of the bystanders to render medical aid to Floyd, including the off-duty Minneapolis firefighter on the scene trained in CPR.
Now, this is easy to say from an ivory tower. But think about it. You're an officer. You're on the scene. Floyd does his thing. He's I don't want to go in the backseat. They pull him out the backseat and they're trying to restrain him. And the restraint goes bad. It does. It went bad. The knee on the neck and all that stuff. That's a little extra. Well, not a little extra. It was a lot extra. It killed. It led to the guy's death. But there was fentanyl in the system. There's a whole myriad of things that led to Floyd's death. But it's the but for. That's essentially what they said. But for the knee on the neck and the restraints, he would be alive. They got him. When it comes to Tao, though, everything that you just saw them read was kind of like standard operating procedure. Don't forget, Chauvin is back there with 20 years experience? So he's relying on his partner to make those judgment calls while he's protecting them from doing their things. So, of course, he's not going to turn around and say, get off from this, because, again, you have to rely on your partners. You have a crowd of people in front of you. It's not just 1 or 2 people. You got a crowd of people in front of you who are essentially angry at your police action, And then you have the officers who you eat, sleep, all these people are you're working with. So you're trusting that they know what they're doing. They're not going to kill the guy. There's no way you could tell me Tao knew or thought they were going to kill the guy. So Tao was, using his training and spirit. And that's what the book says do, right? The training manual says that one guy's gotta protect the other officers so they can do their job by holding back the crowd, and that's what Tao essentially did. But now, for the act of actually following the manual and doing what the manual says, he's got to serve 5 years in prison. He's got federal prison he's got to go to. This doesn't seem like justice to me. Chauvin, okay. The other 2, got 2 weeks on the force. Really, he loses his job. He is in prison. I don't know. But this guy, crowd control, aiding and abetting, stopping bystanders. So think about this. The judge thinks it's reasonable for him to just move aside and allow the bystanders to do whatever they want to do to his fellow officers. I don't know any cop that would have done that. I think the guy's just in a bad situation. He just unfortunately got caught up with the Floyd trap, right? The Floyd trap was, if you was there on the scene with a uniform and you didn't physically remove these other officers off of George Floyd, you were going to jail for time. You were getting years in prison. It's just the name of the game. I personally don't call that justice. That's not justice. But he tried, and they gave him time.
In a statement through their attorney saying, with each of these measures of justice, it is even more so demonstrated that police brutality is an illegal and punishable act.
But he didn't do anything. He didn't touch Floyd. What did he do that's police brutality? He was just minding the crowd.
Attorney General Keith Ellison says the prosecution has ended, but Floyd's murder is not behind us, adding, quote, "There is much more that prosecutors, law enforcement leaders, ranked and file officers, elected officials, and the community can do to bring about true justice in law enforcement and true trust and safety in all communities."
Now, I would say this. There is going to be an effect, I think, on officers in this place. Because now, if I'm an officer and I see you doing something, there may be an issue, right? Because now I don't want to go to jail for 5 years because you idiots didn't do what you needed to do, and this guy died, right? This guy, we arrested him for a $20 fake bill, and now I'm doing 5 years. Now you doing 20 years, and I'm doing 5 years because I'm doing crowd control. This is no. So I do think if you're in Minnesota and you're an officer, you better start thinking like, this is not going to be easy. This is going to be hard. We're going to make sure, because I'm not going to jail for your stupidity. And that's essentially with Tao. Tao is going to jail for their stupidity, not going to jail for his own stupidity. So tell me where I'm wrong. Do you think Tao should go to jail for all these years? Here are the sentences for, I'm calling the Floyd 4. So these are the sentences for the 4 cops that were involved in the George Floyd homicide. Officer Derek Chauvin, 22.5 years. He was the senior officer. Ty Tao, his 4.75 years, he was on force for 10 years. So essentially they charged the senior officers like, you guys are going to get the most time because you guys should have known better. The other 2 officers, Thomas Lane and Alexander, they were new. They were being trained. This is welcome to the force type stuff, and they're going away for 3 years. They both took plea deals. No matter what you feel about Chauvin. Okay, let's say you agree with Chauvin or not, right? Because there's a lot of people who don't agree with Chauvin, a lot of people who agree with Chauvin. I'm one who, when I watched the trial, I thought Chauvin was going down. I thought Chauvin was going to get the max sentence. I was like, this does not look good. Video doesn't play well for juries. It didn't play well for him. I thought Tao had a shot. But as you can see, he's serving almost 5 years for essentially doing crowd control. It's tough. Do I think this is justice? I can't call this justice. I don't think this is justice. Matter of fact, tell me what you think in the comment section. If you think this is justice, fine. But I want to know why. Do you think someone who was doing crowd control, who wasn't involved in, the knee on the neck and holding the guy down, whatever, who just was doing exactly what the manual says, stand back, be calm, why that person should get 5 years of their life taken away? It's hard. It's hard to square. I don't know. It's hard to square. But now I know, like I said before, if I'm an officer in Minnesota, I'm doing this job a lot differently. Let me know how you feel in the comments section. Let me know if you think this was the right decision, if Officer Tao should have got more time. Some people out there think he should have got more time. My name is Nate the Lawyer. I'm out of here. Peace.